Continue to decide whether to reject almost $2 billion in education funding from the federal government. 10 News anchor John Becker spoke with Jesse Mayshark from the online news publication Compass on the wide-reaching impact this could have.
Jesse Mayshark, one of the co-publishers of Compass. It is online, and it's a news publication site that covers everything Knoxville and Knox County, plus the state. Jesse, that's what we're going to dive into here, because some state lawmakers are saying we should, as a state, refuse almost $2 billion and give that money back to the federal government. Explain why.
House Speaker Cameron Sexton started talking about this earlier this year. And of course, they've convened this committee, which has been holding hearings over the past week on this issue. And Sexton said he wanted to look at possibly getting Tennessee out from under federal regulations, that the federal money comes with strings attached that maybe the state doesn't want to deal with, and maybe it could just kind of make up that money itself and not have those strings. So then the question is, well, what are the strings? And as the testimony in these hearings have shown, the biggest concentration of those have to do with special education, because there is very extensive special education law, and a big chunk of the federal money that school systems get is to serve their students with disabilities, their special education population. One thing that got pointed out in these hearings, though, is that a lot of those federal regulations have also been written into state law. And so even if they gave up this federal money, they'd still be obligated under state law, unless they change it, to provide services to special education students. And so it's not totally clear what strings are really being talked about here.
We have seen superintendents come out and explain their concerns about this, in particular superintendents from rural sections of Tennessee.
Yeah, well, and it's because federal funding can make up anywhere from 10 to 15% or higher of a school district's budget. And the biggest determinant of how much federal funding you get is how many low-income students you get. Because a lot of that money, the money that doesn't go to special education students, goes to low-income students and to pay for school lunches and breakfast and so forth. And so for a lot of these rural districts, if they lose that money, now the state is saying, well, maybe they could make it up. But I think their concern is that right now they have dedicated streams of funding from the federal government. If that became dependent on state allocations year to year, like what if the state budget turns bad? Are they suddenly not going to have that money to feed their kids, possibly be looking at having to raise taxes just to continue to provide those? So yeah, what that committee has heard from school leaders has been a lot of concern about, if you're going to take this away, how are we going to continue to serve these populations?
And quickly, this committee was charged with finding out those strings, finding out the consequences, and then moving ahead in the legislature. We may see more of this in the session in January.
Yeah, the committee is going to produce some kind of report, and I guess we'll see what comes out of that. One thing we are hearing is that there's a lot of concern about sort of slowing state revenues this year. And so that might kind of put the brakes a little bit on turning down any other kind of money.
Jesse Mayshark with CompassKnox.com. We appreciate the insight.